I am Dr. Subhasree, Assistant Professor of History, PG and Research Department of History, Sri Sharda College for Women Autonomous, Salem 16. Today we are going to see the topic Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Jean-Jacques Rousseau was one of the greatest philosophers in Western history. His critiques of the French education and political systems have become classics for the comprehensive solutions they proposed. In particular, his concept of the general will in politics and society has been used widely by modern politicians to condone any number of actions. His early life. Jean-Jacques Rousseau, born in Geneva, Switzerland in 1712. He was orphaned young, unstable childhood. He moved to France, worked as a tutor. His biography. Jean-Jacques Rousseau was born to a middle-class family in Geneva, which was at the time an independent Calvinist republic in association with the Swiss Confederacy. Rousseau's mother died shortly after his birth and his father left when he was 10. An uncle brought up Jean-Jacques and his older brother, but at the age of 15 or 16, the younger Rousseau ran away after enduring a series of abusive apprenticeships. Emile. Rousseau wrote Emile in 1762, shortly after which it was banned. The book challenged the dominion of the clergy in education as well as their methods in providing instruction. Emile imports Rousseau's philosophy of education through the experiences of the title, character, and the young boy. Tellingly, the boy's tutor is named Jean-Jacques, who at the end of the book declares himself to be the boy's true father because of his role in educating Emile. Despite the book's initial difficulties with French authorities, Rousseau nonetheless reached a large audience by having the book printed in the Netherlands. Eventually, Rousseau won a small victory over the Indian ancient regime. Emile became the basis for the new French education system after the French Revolution in 1789. His philosophical ideas. Jean-Jacques Rousseau believed that humans were naturally good but corrupted by society. In the social contract, he argued that true freedom comes from following the general will, where laws reflect the common good. He criticized private property as the root of inequality and believed that education should nurture a child's natural development, which was said in Emile. Rousseau's ideas on democracy, equality, and civic virtue greatly influenced modern political thought and education. Rousseau's major works. Jean-Jacques Rousseau's major works include The Social Contract, which was written in 1762, where he argued for government based on the general will, and Emile, which was written in 1762, which promoted natural education. In Discourse on Inequality, 1755, he criticized private property as the root of social inequality. His Discourse on the Arts and Sciences, 1750, claimed that progress had corrupted morality, and Confessions, 1782, provided a personal reflection on his life. His, work, his works greatly influenced modern political and educational thought. Rousseau's political philosophy. Rousseau developed his political philosophy over the course of decades. The principal means in which he did so was through several books written between 1750 and 1762, of which The Social Contract is the most famous. Over the next few pages, we will outline Rousseau's political philosophy through his major works. Discourse on the Arts and Sciences, 1750. Rousseau's Discourse on the Arts and Sciences was his first major work and brought him to the attention of the French and European public. Shortly after his conversion experience in 1749, Rousseau decided to enter an essay writing competition given by the Academy of Dijon. The competition stipulated that writers must answer whether the re-establishment of the arts and sciences had contributed to purifying morals. Rousseau sent his answer to the Academy in 1750 and 1751. He was announced as a winner. Rousseau gained extensive notoriety as a result of his answer. The competition was watched widely, and his victory received responses from numerous dignitaries, including the King of Poland. Discourse on Inequality, 1755. Rousseau's discourse on the origin and basis of inequality among men, better known by the shorter title above, or as Rousseau's second discourse, was again written in response to a question given by the Academy of Dijon. The Academy's question in 1754 was, "What is the origin of inequality among men, and is it authorized by natural law?" This time Rousseau did not win first prize, partly because his essay was longer than the specified length, but he still published his text in 1755. It has become better known than his discourse on arts and sciences. Criticism of Rousseau. Somebody says his ideas were too idealistic. An ambiguity in his general will concept, and accused of inconsistency in beliefs. Discourse on political economy. Rousseau's discourse on political economy initially appeared in Denis Diderot's Encyclopedia, but Rousseau published it himself as a separate volume in 1755. While Rousseau's previous discourses critiqued how civilization has developed, this discourse provided ideas on how to improve civilization. This work is important on those grounds, but also because here Rousseau introduced the concept of the general will, which he would develop further in the social contract, and is central to the understanding of Rousseau's political philosophy. The general will, Rousseau argued, is what is best for society. A society is made up of individuals with different skills and different desires, but is also a group. The general will, therefore, looks after what is best for that entire group. Sometimes, however, general will can come into conflict with the desires of one or several groups within the society. So, Rousseau articulated some general principles. The governing body of any society, in order to act virtuously, must always follow the general will and must make sure that it is in accordance with the individual will, if at all possible. Rousseau's conception of the general will and the state relied on the articulation of human nature he developed in his second discourse, that man is innately good. It also again disputed Hobbes' understanding of humanity. Rousseau argued that if any governing body acts according to the principle he set out, that is, the general will acts in society's best interest and in accordance with the individual will, the people will live virtuously and will have no trouble following the law because they trust the government to act on their behalf. Hobbes, however, viewed people more negatively. He believed that the government needed laws with harsh penalties because people would only obey the laws and act against their egoistical nature if the penalties were harsh enough to deter them. Rousseau's exile and later years. Rousseau was executed for his ideas. After that he lived in Switzerland and in England. He also lived in exile in Switzerland and England. After that, at last, he died in France in 1778. So, what was the impact behind his philosophy? Jean-Jacques Rousseau's ideas had a profound impact on politics, education, and philosophy. His concept of the social contract influenced the French Revolution, inspiring calls for democracy and equality. His emphasis on the general will shaped modern republicanism and democratic governance. In education, Emile promoted child centered learning, influencing progressive education theories. His critique of inequality and private property influenced later socialist and communist thinkers. Overall, Rousseau's works helped to shape modern ideas of freedom, civic duty, and human rights. The Social Contract 1762. Rousseau's social contract developed the themes he had worked on his discourses of the 1750s to their fullest extent. This work can particularly be seen as a continuation of and an improvement upon the discourse on political economy, as he again attempted to outline a vision for society. Rousseau also attempted to establish a social contract that differed from the corrupt social contract he criticized in his second discourse. The social contract differs from Rousseau's earlier works in significant ways. However, while his first and second discourses were designed to answer the particular questions, the social contract set out a more comprehensive vision for society. Unlike his first two discourses, social contract was not written to win a prize but to give an honest assessment. Nonetheless, Rousseau's skill as a writer is evident in the memorable first line, "Man is born free, but everywhere he is in chains." His famous statement derives from his theory of the division of labor and the resulting false social contract implemented on French society. Rousseau further developed his concept of the general will from his gestation in his discourse on political economy. In particular, he argued that the direction of the general will is legitimate for whomever holds true sovereignty. Sovereignty does not refer merely to whomever holds power, but to the person or governing body who truly acts in the interest of the general will. Moreover, sovereignty does not mean acting in the interest of the political body that governs a people, but acting in the interest of the people themselves. General will, he continued, is always abstract because it refers to a group of people, while individual wills are often specific needs. Rousseau did not, however, deal with the difficulties that often occur when reconciling the general will with the individual will, or when what the people want differs from what is right for them. Rousseau's social contract purports to free the people from their chains, but his concept of the general will evokes an idea of a controlling state that leaves no room for individuality. This seems like a contradiction, but in Rousseau's optimistic view of society, it is not. A government, Rousseau argued, holds sovereignty when it acts to secure the freedom of the people it governs and make them relatively equal in the economic matters. The people can trust the government to act in their favor, much as Emile trusted his tutor to act for his benefit. If the people do not upset his delicate balance between government and society, the government will not be forced to intervene on individual freedom. Major influences. His Enlightened movement, inspired by Montesquieu and Voltaire, personal experiences shaped his ideas. Confessions in 1782, one of the first autobiographies which the name Confessions, which was written by Rousseau in 1782. In that he gave honest self-exploration of his life and flaws. Rousseau's legacy. Rousseau's legacy is much disputed, and as such it is difficult to characterize. His philosophy spawned many ideas and was used in many different ways. Some were good and some were overwhelmingly bad. The concept of the general will can be widely applied, and a leader can argue that he or she acts on behalf of the general will with great positive or negative effects. Rousseau's influence has therefore been interpreted in two ways. First, he is seen as one of the founding philosophers of modern democracy because His works helped to inspire the French Revolution as well as the French attempts to establish a responsible republican government over the next century, which in turn influenced similar attempts across the world. Second, and quite conversely, Rousseau's theories have also been implicated in many of the most egregious examples of dictatorship and totalitarianism in history, including the reigns of Robespierre, Stalin, Hitler, all of whom claimed to act for the good of their society. What is important to keep in mind is that Rousseau did not intend for his theories to be used in that way, while he perhaps should have been wiser to the potential for the misuse of his sweeping doctrines. He cannot be blamed for the actions of others decades, sometimes centuries, after his death. Rousseau has also had a great effect on the number of philosophers who have in turn been influential. Immanuel Kant, Immanuel Kant, whose philosophy is part of the underpinnings of the European Union, developed his idea of the common good partly in conversation with Rousseau's general will. Karl Marx, moreover, drew heavily on Rousseau's political philosophy, while many other philosophers since have referred to or argued against Rousseau's principles since they have become so central to political philosophy. Jean-Jacques Rousseau was a traveler. He rarely remained in one place for more than 2 decades of his life. The reasons for this varied. His family abandoned him, his friends abjured him for his paranoid conduct, and the French state sought his arrest for subversion, forcing him to flee. Rousseau's Emile attempted to establish a new standard of education based on a natural, self directed style of learning. Rousseau believed that children should be taught to discover the world in a number of safe, mostly self directed settings rather than by rote, as was the custom at the time. Rousseau's initial concern in the area of political philosophy revolved around the degradation of civilization. His first discourse argued that the arts and sciences were corrupting human virtue, while his second discourse outlined how human society became based on a false social contract. Rousseau's next major works, his discourse on political economy and the social contract, preferred his ideas for a proper social contract. In political economy, Rousseau introduced his idea that a society should be governed according to the general will or what is best for the people as a whole. The social contract represents the pinnacle of Rousseau's theorizing. In this work, he set out a comprehensive vision for society and rounded out his idea of the general will. Rousseau's theories have been used widely over the past 250 years, both in the defense of democratic principles and in the propagation of murderous totalitarian regimes. His influence is difficult to overstate. Rousseau's social contract purposed to free the people from their chains. Rousseau's conception of the general will and the state relied on the articulation of human nature he developed in the second discourse. Rousseau went to the articulate his theory of the development of civilization. The first stage involved temporary group of organization with attempts at developing language. Next came more permanent relationship, especially marriage and family relationship, which also brought with them rudimentary understandings of property and pride. While humans would still be basically happy at this stage, developments in the arts and sciences at the next stage created the setting for humanity's dissatisfaction. Here, Rousseau's second discourse harkens back to his discourse on the arts and sciences and his argument about the degenerate nature of civilization. With the introduction of the arts and sciences, people developed different skills and the division of labor evolved. Those with more valuable skills acquired more power in the society. Eventually, citizens who rise to the top of the division agree that everyone must be bound by a social contract, that all aspects of the society work together to reinforce the whole. Rousseau asserted, however, that this is a self interested argument on the part of the new elites to secure their power. Thank you.